Greetings, Pokey fans! Michael here, and the last time I made a video discussing my least favorite Pokemon, it was over 4 years ago. So I figured that video deserved an update. Not only have my opinions changed a bit, but Generation 7 came out, and my camera quality and video background have improved dramatically.
Greetings, Poke fans! Michael here.
This video will be pretty straightforward. It's the top 10 Pokemon that I dislike the most, for whatever reasons, that I freaking feel like, because it's my least favorite Pokemon list. So don't forget to complete the very important task of leaving a like on the video, and without further ado, let's start complaining. Number 10, Simipour. The Unova monkeys are pretty much universally disliked by about everyone, and Simipour is no exception for me. The base form monkeys get passes because they're cute, but Simipour is just some creepy looking monkey person with long hair that's only water type because it's blue. Its design is just so incredibly underwhelming and uncreative. It's not very hard for me to imagine a different water monkey Pokemon that doesn't look like your annoyingly over-friendly neighbor that's coming over to let you know that he scratched your car bumper again. I just hate that what could have been a really interesting second starter trio just ended up being 3 boring, ugly monkeys. So Simipour definitely deserves its spot on my and several others' least favorite list. Number 9, Klefki. I've heard a lot of people complain over the years that Pokemon based on inanimate, human-made objects are uncreative and bad, and I must say I disagree. Chandelure is really cool, Aegislash is awesome, and Magnezone and its whole line are pretty unique. But they're definitely not all innocent, and the worst offender in my opinion is Klefki. It's a key ring. That's it. That's its whole thing. It's a key ring that collects keys. Who asked for that? Other object Pokemon tend to have some really unique design aspects or attributes that make them more than just that object with a face. For example, Chandelure is a chandelier Pokemon, which sounds dumb, but it gets a lot cooler once you find out that it's a ghost fire type that uses burning spirits as its fuel. That is metal as hell and so awesome. Klefki doesn't have that. It's just a key ring that collects keys for no discernible reason. It even says in the Pokedex that no one knows why it collects keys. That's basically Game Freak saying, well, yeah, we got nothing on why this happened, so we're just gonna say no one can figure it out. I could forgive Klefki if it was cute, or if it was cool, or it had a creative evolution progression, but since it has none of those, it's just a key ring with a face. And that is stupid. Number 8, Aromatisse. When people ask me what my least favorite Pokemon type is, my response is usually fairy. I want to make it clear that I definitely don't despise all fairy type Pokemon. Alola Ninetales is one of my favorite Pokemon of all of them, and I also really like Xerneas, Gardevoir, Tapu Koko, and several other fairy types. The main reason I default to fairy type though is due to the Pokemon that I most heavily associate with the fairy type. Those being the brand new fairy type species that came about when the fairy type did. In other words, the Gen 6 fairy types. Of all the fully evolved ones, I like 1, am indifferent to 4, and actively dislike the other 4. As you can see, it's not a particularly healthy opinion distribution. But what makes my view toward the fairy type even worse is the existence of Aromatisse. I don't know why, but when someone mentions fairy type Pokemon, the first Pokemon that pops into my head is either Sylveon or Aromatisse. So if half the time I think of fairy Pokemon, I'm thinking of this abomination, you can see why I wouldn't think very highly of the fairy type. I just don't understand why they thought anyone would think this Pokemon is appealing. It's a disturbing, creepy plague doctor combined with a can-can dancer that's actively trying to be sexy by showing off its leg. Does that sound like a good combination to you? No? Same here. Aromatisse is just straight up ugly and unappealing and inadvertently serves as the fairy type mascot for me. So if you're upset that I don't like the fairy type very much, send a strongly worded letter to this thing. Number 7, Jinx. Due to nostalgia, Gen 1ers are often blind to some of the truly terrible Pokemon in the original 151. One of the most infamously bad Pokemon in that generation is Jinx, and I harbor a similar sentiment towards it as most other people. It is butt freaking ugly. I know it's got some more creative design aspects, being based on the Ganguro fashion trend or the Yamauba yokai, but those are both people, and we've got a pretty good chunk of evidence that basing Pokemon heavily on people doesn't work out too well. Additionally, it's pretty much always giving off a, how do I put this without getting demonetized? Non-consensual vibe, which makes me, and I'm sure plenty of other people, feel very uncomfortable. And it doesn't help that the Pokemon was at the center of a racist controversy, so if Jinx just simply ceased to exist, I doubt very many people would miss it. I certainly would not. Number 6, Watchog. I talked at length about this in my top 10 most frustrating Pokemon to battle video, but I'll summarize it here. The most annoying type of Pokemon to battle against is one that is weak and should be eliminated quickly, but is able to delay its demise by using cheap, annoying, luck-based tactics. There is no better example of this kind of Pokemon than Watchog. Watchog is an early game normal type and therefore is pretty weak. It's only got a base stat total of 420, which actually, now that I think about it, considering its bright red eyes, that makes perfect sense. However, beating one is rarely quick and easy because virtually all of them that you will face will carry a combination of Confuse Ray and Hypnosis. Status conditions that prevent you from attacking are annoying, but when they're stacked together, it's freaking insanity inducing. But at least while you're sitting there not being able to attack for what could be 5 or more turns, at least you're not taking very much damage from the Watchog, right? Because you know it's just so weak? Wrong, because Watchog tends to carry Super Fang, a move that instantly halves your HP and can wear down your Pokemon's total health very quickly. Now it's not like Watchog's stats or strategy are good enough for you to actually lose, but your victory is going to be a Pyrrhic one, because oh my god, you're gonna have to heal at least one member of your team after every time you fight a freaking Watchog. Now there are other Pokemon out there that are similarly frustrating to battle, but what's earned Watchog a place on my least favorite list is the fact that these things are freaking everywhere. In a Unova playthrough, you'll probably battle, I don't know, 20, 30 minimum, just because of how many freaking plasma grunts have these things. It seriously detracts from the fun of a Unova playthrough experience. Couple its annoyance with a lackluster design, and you've got a Pokemon that I'm pretty much always going to resent and hope I never have to run into. Number 5, Delphox. Delphox is the worst starter Pokemon out there. I held this belief when it was first released, I've continued to hold it to this day, and it would just take a complete and absolute disaster of a Pokemon for me to think that any future starter Pokemon are worse than it. Fennekin started out a really cute and well-designed Pokemon, but as it got further into its evolutionary line, it got worse and worse. Braixen retained some of that cuteness, but it was suddenly also like part person, and it had a stick coming out of its butt. And then Delphox just lost all of that cuteness and just became straight up unsettling. If you look at Delphox from the neck down, it's a person. A person wearing clothes made of their own hair. And then you look up, and its head is a fox's, but not just any regular fox head. It's a fox head with giant ears, and then an even larger amount of disgusting ear hair coming out of them. It's unsettling and uncomfortable, but it's not trying to be like a lot of ghost-type Pokemon are. It's trying to be this cool, furry mage, but instead it looks like some disturbing witch monster you'd find in a shack in the middle of the woods like, oh, hello! I wish Fennekin had remained quadruped and evolved into some really cool, majestic fox, kind of like Cubimon from Digimon Tamers. Although obviously, with bigger ears and without the 9 tails, because, well, obviously. Number 4, Simisear. This entry will be pretty short since I have the same things to say about it as I do about Simipour. It's an uncreative, ugly Pokemon that's basically just a different colored clone of its counterparts. Simisear is definitely the worst of the 3 though. Simisage is the best, but by no means a good Pokemon, because, I don't know, it looks like it has a fun personality. But Simisear looks dead inside and just so creepy. It looks like he's trying to maliciously lure you back to his place or sell you something that he knows is a ripoff. Simisear is such a bad Pokemon that in a 2016 Pokemon election poll in Japan, it got last place of all of the Pokemon that existed at the time, and therefore got a distribution as a result. Simisear's only redeeming quality is its hair, but that hair looks much better on Pansear and Joe Jonas than it could ever look on Simisear. Number 3, Mr. Mime. Does anyone like this thing? Does anyone think this incredibly disturbing and creepy jester mime that perpetually looks like it's staring at you through your bedroom window while you sleep is a good Pokemon? If any people do actually like Mr. Mime, they probably won't be around for long, because they'll probably just invite it into their house to have a nice cup of tea, and it will kill them. It's just so needlessly creepy and ugly. It's got those spindly arms and those really screwed up feet. It's just, God, it's awful. Easily the worst product of Gen 1 out there anywhere. And I want it to go away forever and never come back. Number 2, Hoopa. If not for the experience I had with Hoopa, I would be completely indifferent to it. It's just another forgettable mythical Pokemon that you get from Mystery Gift, toss into your PC, and never touch again. But watching the worst Pokemon movie ever to be created has caused me to thoroughly despise this Pokemon. Hoopa and the Clash of Ages was the biggest waste of an hour and a half I have ever experienced, and I have been to the DMV more than once. It is a movie with no plot whatsoever, bad voice acting that pronounces hippopotamus as hippopotas, and it's just an hour and a half long commercial for the main series games. But Hoopa itself was by far the worst part of the movie. It was just incessantly annoying the entire time, talking in third person, being a complete idiot, and constantly repeating, "Ale Hoopa ring, shut up!" Most Pokemon are on this list because I think they're very ugly, but Hoopa is here because its anime incarnation is the most annoying Pokemon I have ever had the displeasure of having to watch on my TV screen. I have heard that Shaman from the Giratina movie is worse, but I haven't seen that movie, so it's still Hoopa for me. Number 1, Miltank. If you've been around my channel for a while, you knew this was coming. Miltank was my least favorite Pokemon in my original video, and it still is to this day. In fact, my negative convictions toward it have grown even stronger. Let's start off with its appearance. It is a pink cow. Now, that's not something I'm going to instantly despise, but it's not something I'm going to think is particularly cool. The problem with Miltank is that it has 4 giant sausage nipples flopping around on its belly, oozing milk for the world to stare at. It's gross. This here is a t-shirt that the Aura Guardian got me as a gag gift.
So I was really hoping Jubilee didn't have that shirt already. Michael, I know for a fact you don't have this shirt already.
No, I didn't have this.
Oh,
Here you go.
now I'm concerned. Son of a
Oh my god. Perfect.
Oh god, it's a hate.
See how gross and ugly this Miltank is? That's how I see all Miltank. But in addition to being hideous and gross, Miltank seems to have gone out of its way to piss me off at several different occasions all throughout my Pokemon history. Whitney's Miltank beat me twice in my first ever playthrough of Johto back in Soul Silver. A Body Slam Milk Drink Miltank ended my 40+ streak at the Battle Mason back in X and Y, and as many of you saw earlier this year, I was up 6-1 in my Metronome Battle Federation battle against the Aura Guardian, and his Miltank named Cow came back and defeated my entire team, losing me the battle. Miltank is a god-awful disgrace of a Pokemon, and it will be my least favorite Pokemon for the rest of forever. So there we have it. Those are my top 10 least favorite Pokemon. I apologize if I offended any of you with my opinions on these Pokemon, but I actually think that's pretty unlikely since most of these Pokemon are pretty universally hated. Let me know down in the comments below if your least favorite list aligns with mine at all, and if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to drop a like, and make sure you subscribe to my channel if you're new. All right, that's all I have for now, so till next time, Pokefans, gotta catch them all!